You know, Glock perfected the striker fire pistol back in the 80s, and every manufacturer since, some later than others, have followed suit with their own version of a striker fire gun. And while your Glocks, your Smith & Wessons, your SIGs are like the majority of the striker fire pistols sold in the United States, along with some others, very few of these companies actually take a completely different approach to the striker fire gun. They might put different features on it or their own features, but it's the same tilting lock action that's been used for a really long time, and it continues to be used because it's a great system. But when we have a manufacturer that kind of steps outside of the box, that's really exciting, especially as a reviewer, because it gives me different things to talk about. And today I'm going to show you a truly unique striker fire pistol. This is the Grand Power Q100 Mk23. Now I'm going to talk about the features. I'm also going to talk about some of the pros and cons, but I also want to show you this shooting versus some of the other guns to see if there's really any kind of benefit to all of the changes that they actually put in this. If you like the type of reviews I do here, consider subscribing. You could also join the SHOT team either here or over on Patreon. Let's go ahead and get started. Now, Grand Power as a company started back in the 90s, but as far as their intro to the United States, that was in 2007 when they signed a contract with STI to import 100,000 K100 pistols. Now, from the beginning with that K100, which was the MK6, they've always had one very unique feature that we're going to talk about here in a minute. Now, the MK designation is simply the year the design of the pistol was made. So MK6, 2006, MK12, 2012, MK23, you get the idea. And so this is going to be their striker-fired version of the K100, which is double to single action. Now the first thing you may notice with the Q100 is how aggressive the pistol looks, especially up in the slide area, kind of giving off some Beretta APX vibes, or even like the Walther PDP. You have slide serrations, and while you don't have as many as some other pistols, these are widely spread apart, so you have plenty of room there to kind of go in and grab them. And you may think that, you know, it gives too much room there for your fingers to slip off of, but each one of the serrations has these kind of contrast cuts into the slide, and they're deeply cut into the slide, so they don't just give the appearance of being aggressive, they truly are super aggressive and easy to pull back on. There was a pistol that I bought last year. I don't even think I've reviewed it yet just because I was so unimpressed with it. But it was the Stoker STR9, I believe, that has kind of the similar premise with the serrations that are, you know, spread so far apart, but that thing did a terrible job of actually, you know, giving you a good bite on the slide. This is not like that. So sometimes just because they're spread apart that much does not always mean that they will be easy to manipulate. By the way, big thanks to Gun Zone Deals for actually setting this up and sending this one out so I can fairly evaluate it and compare it to some of these other guns. Now, just like every modern pistol pretty much has to be, this one is optics ready. They send you 4 plates. They're going to fit some of the most popular red dots out there. Your Vortex Venom, your Shield, Trijicon, RMR, all of that. So it definitely has that. And this one does not actually remove the rear sight when you do that, which is a good thing. I've seen some of their older models, I think it was the K100 if I'm not mistaken, or it may have been the Excalibur even, that was actually a part of the rear sight as far as this plate. So when you remove that, you remove that rear sight. Now if it's a competition gun, okay, you're probably going to be using a red dot anyways. If it's a defensive gun, I want some kind of backup there, even though with as low profile as these sights are, it's a 3-dot arrangement, you're not necessarily going to be able to co-witness there with pretty much anything anyways, but hey, at least they are there. It does come with an extra front sight though that is a little bit taller. Just kind of always wish these optics ready guns made these sights tall enough where they will pretty much co-witness with any kind of dot that they can accommodate. But It's just my opinion. Now, it also comes with 3 additional back straps. These back straps are interesting because they actually do change a little bit on the side strap there as well. So it's not just the texturing on the back, and it's not just the width. It's not just how much it's going to fill your hand up, but they're on the sides too, which is kind of cool and very interesting. We have relief cuts here in the top to eliminate a little bit or reduce a little bit of weight. We have the Grand Power logo right there, and then the Slovakia crest, the coat of arms, Slovak Republic crest up here at the top. Truly ambidextrous. So magazine release and your slide stop is available on each side. One thing I like about the slide stop, they pushed it back just far enough where even somebody like me with a little bit smaller hands, I can pretty much reach it. It's kind of extended there, but at least it is set back just far enough. But it's also far forward enough where you're probably not going to have any issues with setting your thumb on this and causing the slide to lock back and not pick up another round, which is an issue I recently found out with the Beretta M9A3. Now, of course, this can happen with any gun, but the Beretta M9A3 specifically, which, by the way, is one of my favorite handguns of all time, is set back a little bit further. So what I found myself doing is my thumb just happened to perfectly fall just far back enough where it was pushing that slide lock down. It doesn't have to be all the way back where the actual ledge is in order to do that, by the way. So this one's set forward enough where I don't think anybody's going to really have that issue to be concerned with. We also have 2 takedown notches right there. We have a single slotted rail, squared off trigger guard, double undercut or undercut under the trigger guard, which is pretty cool. By the way, they do have versions with safeties. I don't think the Q100 has a safety yet, but their K series and those different frame sizes that are similar to this are gonna have a safety. So these have the little plugs there. They are not aesthetically pleasing at all. That is one of the cons. By the way, we're just going to talk about this stuff as we roll along as far as pros and cons. So we're not covering the same things twice, just a minor change that I'm making to the videos. So that is one of the cons there. Like I said, it just doesn't look good. I wish there was kind of a different way. Most other manufacturers, you may have some hint there that there could be a safety, whether that's just a small cutout or somewhere where the lines are already, I don't know, almost like perforated, like a piece of paper where the cut could go, but it doesn't stand out so much like this does. We have a nice beaver tail right there to protect your hand, and one thing you will notice is the slide. You have a super low bore axis, and that has a lot to do with the rotating barrel that this pistol utilizes. Now, it's a little bit different from their old K100 series in that it utilizes a groove under the barrels. Now, one thing you'll find is the pin right here where the takedown notches are inside of the frame. There's a stationary pin there. And so there's a groove cut into the barrel. So that barrel is going to rotate and unlock, right? And essentially cam, and the barrel and slide will come back just a little bit, and then the barrel's stationary. It no longer moves. The slide can do the rest of the action by extracting, ejecting, and then picking up a new round. You have a single recoil spring that is actually built into the frame of the gun. Again, I'll show you that here in just a minute. And we have a flat face trigger with a trigger safety. So interestingly, when you pull this back, you get just a little bit of resistance, maybe a little bit more resistance out of that safety dingus in the middle than what you may find with other guns, but it's not unnecessarily hard, but it's also not too light, which again is important for a defensive gun. But also that blade doesn't tend to kind of poke you or irritate you in any kind of way. Now, this isn't something you're necessarily going to notice when, if you were to use this gun in self-defense by any means, but when you're at the range and I'm evaluating, some of the trigger blades on other guns, they protrude just a little bit too much, and the shape of them causes them to kind of cut into your trigger finger. That's about the best term I can use. It doesn't really cut it, but it just kind of stabs your finger a little bit. It's just a little bit too curved and or the shape of it is just a little too harsh. This is not like that. That trigger blade depresses evenly into the trigger. It's a flat face trigger at that, with a little bit of a hook on the bottom. You hit the wall, a little bit of take up, and that thing breaks. When it comes to striker fire triggers, this thing may give the Walther PDP and some of the other really good ones a run for its money. Now, I've talked about some of the pros, some of the cons of the pistol so far. Definitely more pros. One con that I found is the breakdown. Unfortunately, well, fortunately, most striker fire guns are super easy to break down, and a lot of them now, you don't even really have to pull the trigger, but most require you to deactivate the sear and pull it back, pull your takedown pins, whatever. But this one is not set up like that. So it does have 2 takedown pins like you would see traditionally on a Glock and some other guns, but the process is different. It almost takes down, think of like the Walther PP, right? Where the back of the gun comes up and off, right? That one has a fixed barrel, and the barrel works as the guide rod as well. Some of your modern Walthers kind of take down like that as well. I forget the model that is a direct blowback that takes down like that. This one too is a direct blowback. So the way we have to take this down, the easiest way that I found is locking the slide back to the rear. We have to then pull the slide all the way to the back of the rear and undo these, or pull down on these 2 little tabs here. So you could grab it just like that with your hand over the back of the slide and your thumb under the beaver tail, pull down, right? And then we are going to lift up. Once we lift up, it's going to come apart like that. So pretty simple there. One thing you will notice, we got our floppy little recoil spring there. It's actually not floppy, it is super sturdy, but obviously when it's not attached to the slide, you can flop it around there if you want to. Stainless steel guide rod. You have a single flat spring there. You can see the pin right here in the chassis. One really cool feature, and you find this on like custom guns, is the assembler's initials are right here. This assembler's initials are Key, K-E-Y. So big thanks to KEY for putting this gun together. That's pretty cool. And if there's an issue with the gun, well, we know exactly who to go back to. So definitely good to see something like that. I appreciate those personal little touches. When we look at the barrel assembly, this too actually has initials in it, LK. I assume that's initials. So what we can do is we can take that rotating barrel out. What you'll notice is that you have a lug there that is going to lock into the top of the slide. So you have extra milling in the front of the slide. It's going to lead to, you know, a little bit more weight, of course, but it also will pay off. As you'll see here in a minute, we have our striker block back here in the rear. That looks like you would normally, you know, expect, or nothing too different there. And then of course we have that groove, as you can see right there in the barrel. It's super interesting. This isn't the first company to use a rotating barrel, but definitely beneficial. Let's go ahead and put this thing back together, and then we'll talk about that. So the guide rod, of course, we're going to put that in the hole right there, and then we're going to semi kind of line up those rails. Now again, we need to do this in reverse order. We need to make sure that the barrel is forward and locked into place, and you're going to want to kind of hold it down so you make sure that that stays there. And then we just need to get the slide pulled back to the rear and line it up with these rails. There's a little cutout about halfway up the slide, and that's where we need to pull it back to. So you need to pull it back all the way and try to do it as straight as you possibly can. I do this kind of in 2 steps. This is the easiest way I've found to do it anyways. If you don't get it straight, you can always reline it. Now, I got it on there straight, but it's still not going to fall in place. Last thing we need to do, grab that slide, pull down on those tabs. It's going to make it a little easier. and then you kind of push down on the slide. We just need to get the front of that to push down and attach to the rails properly. Each time you do it, it becomes a little bit easier, but man, it can be aggravating if you don't know how to do it. So there you go. Hopefully that will help you out if you needed it. So all of these interesting features, rotating barrel especially, really good trigger. Does that lead to a better shooter? Well, this whole time I hope that you've kind of gotten the idea that this thing really is an incredible shooting gun. The accuracy is on par with some of the best pistols I own. CZ Shadow 2, your Beretta M9A3. Your PDPs, your MMPs, your SIG P320s, you know, all your guns, all the nomenclature, all the acronyms. It is on par, if not a little bit better than maybe some of those. The most accurate pistols I have, like the Canik SFX Rival, the Beretta M9A3, your CZ Shadow 2 specifically, it is definitely on par with those. Now they make this in a 3.7 inch barrel version and the 4 1/4. This one is the 4 1/4 full size because I see this gun more in a duty home defense type of role. It's not something I plan on carrying. When you look at all of the features combined, of course it's going to be a little bit wider, a little bit heavier than what you will find with some others. So, you know, what you save with the 3.7 inch version to me is not worth it because I'm not going to carry this gun anyways. But I'll tell you one thing, dude, this gun is super freaking accurate, and that's what you want. A really accurate gun, super low recoiling. It is a gun that I would for sure, if I was teaching somebody how to shoot a 9mm pistol, this would be amongst one of the best ones to show them with, because again, you have that low bore axis, you have that light recoiling gun, and then of course it shoots so good, man. And sometimes, you know, features, you know, like the rotating barrel, like I said, this isn't the first company to do this, but it really pays off here. And rack and the slide, the entire experience with the gun minus the breakdown is really nothing short of amazing. So with all of that said, we have quite a few pros and we have very few cons. And with a little bit different operating system here, it actually pays off in the form of accuracy and shootability, right? If this was just as accurate as most of the other pistols that I have, which I'm looking at self-defense accuracy generally speaking, but there's some guns that just kind of stand out as being just really super easy to shoot and just super accurate. When I say that, I'm as accurate as I'm going to be. I'm in control of the accuracy of any given pistol, and they're more accurate than I can ever be. But at the same time, some are just easier to shoot. Some are just easier to shoot really well and get those shots on target and consistently hit same area after the same area. And anytime you can fix the barrel, your Berettas, your Walthers, PP series and all of that, anytime that barrel stays stationary, you're going to get better results as far as your accuracy, and this one definitely pays off. So overall, I am a huge fan of this gun. If I were to train somebody to shoot a 9mm pistol, this may be one of the ones that I would definitely consider because that low bore axis, low recoiling, and super accurate at the same time. The weight without a magazine, you're right at like 25.4 ounces. So yeah, you're going to be a couple more ounces heavier than Glock, but in my opinion, much easier to shoot than a Glock. Much better trigger than a Glock as well, and priced about the same, actually a little bit less when you compare it to some of the models with Glock, and considering that it's optics ready, actually it will be much cheaper than what you're going to find with a Glock and on par with some of the other manufacturers. This thing is really a competitor in the full-size handgun market, or some people would say compact, but I consider this a full-size gun. And this thing is seriously on another level when it comes to the value, what you get, and how it shoots. There you go, man. I'd love to hear your opinion. If you have any experience with Grand Power pistols, let me know what you think down below, because I'd love to hear from you guys that have shot maybe more of these and been shooting them for longer. This being my first experience, so this sets the bar really high for what these guys have to offer. Am I totally surprised? Not really, because the Strybogs have been incredible for a number of different years, and those are a great value as well. So not really that surprised, to be honest with you. These guys make a heck of a good product at a good price that a lot of people can afford. There you go. Let me know what you think down below. If you like what I do, consider subscribing, hit your notifications so you never miss one from me, and consider joining the SHOT team. I'd love to have you guys join. You could do that here or over on Patreon. Big thanks. See you in the next one, and as always, hold them down.